Hi, friends.
Welcome to You, Me, and Them with your hosts,
Jasmine
and Vivian.
We're your bi-weekly podcast diving into the complexities of romance, relationships, and reality.
Get ready to challenge norms,
explore new perspectives,
and embrace the many curveballs life throws at us.
Can we just vibe? Can we just
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to You, Me, and Them. We're your hosts. I'm Vivian, and this is
Jasmine.
And this week, we are getting back to our Supporting Your Partner series, and this time we are talking about grief. So before we get into it, I just want to say thank you guys for allowing us to take a brief detour to talk about our engagement.
Yeah, thank you.
We appreciate all the feedback and all the well wishes. And much like we said last week, you know, with joy comes grief, and with grief comes joy. So we're constantly working through both of those things. And this week we want to talk a little bit more about that.
I'm anxious, and I've honestly been trying to prolong this episode for as long as I can, just because I know I'm a big softie, I'm a big crybaby anyways, and I've dealt with a lot of grief lately, and I just know it's not going to be fun for me. But here we are.
Well, let's talk about it, right? Because there's a couple of different types of grief that I think that we should talk about when we talk about supporting our partners. And there's the grief that comes with certain familial relationships, and the grief of losing someone, which I think most people tie the thought of grief to, is losing someone to death. And then there's also the grief of losing friendships and things of that nature. And I think we could probably touch base on all of those things. So let's go ahead and get started. I mean, you talked about some of the grief you've experienced over the last year or year and a half. Tell us your story.
I don't want to I'm already I'm going to get choked up about it. But yeah, I think what it started with was in the fall of 2023. I lost my job. I got laid off. And so that was a weird situation to kind of navigate and grieve within itself, because I've never been laid off from a job before. It's such a weird feeling. How do you, am I a failure, or am I, you don't want me here anymore? And it's just, it's so weird. It's wow, you don't like me, or I'm not a good fit. And so that happened in early October of 2023. And then 2 weeks later, my father passed away. And that was the whole complicated thing within itself. Here it goes.
That's okay.
But give me a second.
Yeah, take your time. And I think when we talk about supporting people through grief, right, this is part of it. You know, Jasmine is a big ball of emotions, and sometimes I'm a little bit more attuned to be able to support her in the way that she needs with that. And sometimes it's harder for me, but I think a big part of it is just trying to understand where your partner is and what they're going through and be empathetic.
And so the reason why it's just it's been so, I think for me, it's been confusing, is because my dad and I did not, we weren't on speaking terms, for a very good reason, reasons that we don't need to dive into in this particular episode, but we didn't have a relationship, and it wasn't for lack of trying. And it just, he had reached out at some point, told me that he was very, very sick. And I didn't want to believe that. I had also thought that I had dealt with the grief of disconnecting our relationship, or setting those boundaries. And when he had reached out and told me that he was sick, all of these conflicting emotions came up, because it's okay, I'm sad and I'm concerned, but he doesn't deserve my sadness or my concern. And he really wanted to make amends, but I knew that wasn't going to happen, at least not the way that I feel we should be making amends. I just kind of had to make peace with where we were. And I feel poor Vivian, we at this point had only been together not even a year yet, not even when all of this happened. It was just before a year that we had known each other that all of this started unfolding.
Yeah, that's right. Because right after we went on our
anniversary
trip. Yeah.
Yeah. And poor Vivian, I had already kind of given you some of the lore and like history surrounding my dad and I. In hindsight, it's at times I feel like was jarring for her because I'm casually dropping like traumatic experiences and events to her, just like in casual conversation or just like talking to her about him. And like, what position does that put you in supporting me? Because it's like, I'm sad, I'm crying over this person, and you're like, okay, but this man was terrible and horrible to you, and how am I supposed to like show up for you and comfort you, and as well also still supporting the fact that like we don't support the person that he was.
Yeah. I think for me though, like it wasn't necessarily something that was hard to do. I understand that as people, we're all different, and grief is confusing, enlightening.
Yeah.
I think that grief can teach you a lot, especially when I think about this specific instance. I remember there being times where you would say like, I don't want to try with my dad anymore. Like I've tried enough. And then, when he passes, it's kind of like, I do still wish there was more time. And it's interesting how grief can show us things that we never saw or maybe never dealt with. But it wasn't necessarily hard for me because I do understand those things. And, I also have like this really like firm belief. Like one of my favorite movies is Princess Mononoke.
And for the first time.
She just got to sleep for the first time in IMAX. And the main character, who is voiced by, I think, Claire Danes, not the main character, but one of the main characters, she is essentially the villain. But there's duality in everything. Yeah. And like she is the villain to the forest and the forest spirits and the animals and all of this stuff. But she's a hero to the lepers and the women and all of these people that she's doing so much for, and I think the same way that there is room for us to feel how terrible a person can be.
Yeah.
There's also room for us to feel that like there were times where I felt like they loved me and cared about me and cherished me and those things. So I think that's why it was really easy for me to be like, I get it, you know?
No, that's so true. And I also found myself like apologizing to her a lot because we'd be fine one moment and then the next thing I'm like in tears.
Yeah. Anything that reminded her of him.
And but like I've also never experienced a loss or like grief like this before. And so it was also just like trying to give myself that grace of like it's okay to feel sad and like grieve while also still feeling the way that I do about him and everything. And just like even still sometimes I'm like, I'm sorry, like I'm so sorry that I'm crying right now, which is like, don't be like,
literally don't be. I mean, it's totally fine. And I wanted to try and honor that. Like it's really easy. I think that there are definitely times where I could have done better. But the one thing that I always wanted was to be able to like show up and like listen.
Yep.
And I'm my own person. I'm going to my own thing to have my own situations and all of that. So there are times where I have to say like, hey, babe, like now's not a good time or whatever.
Yeah.
But most of the time I really just wanted to be able to be present and show up for her in that way. Like for instance, one thing, it's super small, but like I could tell that she was finding ways to hold on to her dad, and the good things in the relationship. And we had kept some of his jeans, his really old like Carhartt jeans, and
Levi.
He collected these bandanas, lighters. So I decided to commission from our friend Dan a pair of like pants and a top with her dad's. She's gonna show you guys, made from her dad's jeans and her dad's bandanas. But it's just really small things like that where I wanted to show up and say like, I see you longing for ways to feel connection to your dad still. And I wanted to make sure that like I honored that in the best way that I could. So here she comes.
And I cried like a freaking big baby.
Cried like a baby, per usual.
So these are the jeans. Like I'll show you from top to bottom. Clip them around.
And I just happened to get lucky that he had a black bandana and a white bandana, the same pattern. It worked out that way.
Yeah, so like the blue denim is all his. The bandanas are all from him as well. And yeah, it's just like it's one of those weird things where it's like I still feel like I shouldn't want to hold on to these things.
Yeah.
But I have and I do love them. Like I'm really thankful that you are thoughtful and sentimental in these ways because like I feel like there's also certain things that I probably would end up regretting if I did like let go or say no to or whatever. But like enough about me and my grief. I've had situations where in other relationships or like previous relationships where I've had a partner lose their parent and I didn't know how to. And I also didn't like put in the effort, I guess, to try and figure out maybe how to be there for them. And it was one of those things where like our dynamic was already a little bit different. We weren't the best communicators. Our relationship was already kind of like back and forth. And so there was that confusion and like uncertainty of like, where is my place in your life? Or like, where do you place me or where do you value me enough to where it's like, is it okay that I'm trying to show up and support you like this? Or do I need to
back off a little bit?
You know?
Yeah.
And in hindsight, I should have probably tried harder to support and show up for this person.
Yeah.
Especially going through it like now myself. But
it's okay. It's okay.
People always don't know how to ask.
Yeah.
And I think that's where he was. And I know for me sometimes, like, I don't ever want to burden people with my emotions or feelings. And so it's like, I'm just going to thug it out by myself or quietly.
Yeah. So I think it's interesting though, because you're also the first person that I've been with where I've like experienced this level of grief from my partner, right? Like I've lost people, whatever, that's happened. And, you know, you have also said like, you know, you had that happen and you didn't know what to do. So I'm wondering from like your perspective, what were things you liked that I did to support you in your grief? And also, what are some things that you think that I could have done better or other ways you would have liked me to show up? Not to be like,
right,
why didn't you do this? But, you know, I think there are people, I mean, as we get older, right? Our families get older, our loved ones get older, and we get closer to these moments all the time. And, you know, life is so fragile.
Yeah.
That like we never know what can happen from one day to the next.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it can be enlightening to like share some of those thoughts for people who, you know, may not be at that point or, you know, may have just entered that point and need to support somebody in a grieving situation.
Ooh, that's an amazing question.
Oh, thank you. I do what I can.
Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes it was like you don't say anything. Like sometimes it's like you're just listening to me either talk about a memory or like cry about something or yeah, I'm trying to think like I've never like in this moment and as we're like talking about it, I've never felt unsupported. Like I've never felt like, oh my God, is she tired of me being sad? Or is she tired of listening to my dad? Or is she tired of like, oh, you know, actually, okay, here we go. I've got something.
Okay. Yeah, I knew it would come.
And again, it's still not like negative or bad or anything, but my dad was a collector, borderline hoarder. And he had a lot of things that meant a lot to him that over the years and time and stuff have also meant a lot to me. Stupid. I'm sorry. Because I'm not even sad right now. I don't know, like, the tears were coming.
We've opened the floodgate.
Yeah, no, that once you get me started. Oh yeah, I guess I probably should have prefaced this part of the story by saying my dad was a chain smoker, cigarette chain smoker. When we cleaned out like his apartment and everything, there's just layers of, I don't even know what it is, like smoke and soot and stuff. When it came to going through and saving certain things, you can't. Some stuff has to get thrown away because there's just no way you're going to get this smoke out of it and the scent and stuff out of it. But he loved carpentry and like fine woodworking and stuff like that. So he has a really nice like bed frame, and there's like dressers, and we have like nightstands and just like certain things that I knew that I wanted to keep. I knew that we wouldn't be able to use them immediately in the space that her and I were sharing, but knew that I would want to have them for down the road, like when we finally got our own spot and stuff like that. And again, her trying to be nice and like give me the space to like save and set aside certain things. I also, you know, she also very tactfully let it be known that like we don't need to save all of his stuff, or like I don't want to move into a space that's ours and have it feel like it's Martin's house. And she's completely valid in that, because there is a difference between like holding on to things versus like things that have actual like value and use. And so I think initially I wanted to take offense to it, because who are you to tell me we have to get rid of this or that we shouldn't use this? But the concerns at the end of the day are valid. And I think outside, you know, of my grief-filled mind, like I'm glad that you approached it the way that you did. But like in the time I would feel like, oh wow, okay, so she doesn't want me to have any of this stuff, or baby is sensitive to smells.
Sherry, oh my God, it's crazy.
Like, I had a pot roast in the car the other week and it was like making her nauseous. But like the smoke filled things, for those of you who know, it's hard to get out. It stinks really badly. And when we first moved, a lot of the furniture in our bedroom was like his bed frame, his dresser, his nightstands. And Vivian was like, it just smells like his house. It smells like smoke. I don't want to put my clothes in these drawers because it smells like him. And, you know, and
I don't want my clothes to smell like cigarettes every time I take them out of the damn drawer.
Yeah. So like, I can't necessarily like say that I felt like unsupported, you know, but there is a way that like when people are grieving, having to figure out how to like approach certain things while keeping that in mind, you know?
Yeah.
And I do feel like depending on how deep I was into things or like in my feelings and stuff, that I could misread or like interpret things as like, wow, Viv really just said fuck you to this, or you know, or even the same thing with like just I don't have the capacity to do this right now. It's like, oh, okay, cool, great. I guess I'm gonna have to find somebody else to cry about my dead dad to.
I think the biggest thing for me though, like especially when it comes to her dad's stuff, like don't get me wrong, it's nice stuff. Like he was a man who loved like well-made things. So I could appreciate that. But like I also saw how reminders of him were eating at you. You know, how they were maybe prolonging your grief a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, and I didn't want to move into a space and be surrounded by grief. Not just for me, but for you too, but also for me.
Yeah.
You know, like it's hard to walk into a room and, you know, I know it reminds you of him and I know it's triggering your grief. And you walk into every single room in the house and that's the case, right? And it's not, that's not what I'm saying, but, you know, I knew that I had to like say something, because even the smoke smell, it's strong for me.
Yeah.
I think it was strong for both of us.
Yeah.
But like at the same time, like that, like smell is one of our biggest memory triggers, right?
Yeah.
So it's like we have to get rid of this smell.
Yeah.
Like I can't have you walking into our bedroom and being sad all the fucking time. You know what I'm saying?
Where was I with you? We were somewhere and Led Zeppelin Stairway to Heaven came on and I was like, we have to change this. I can't listen to this. Because like, you know, songs, smell, all of those things are heavily tied to memories.
Yeah. Our first Seahawks game together, she cried a little bit, thinking about how her...
No, that's so real, because like, sorry.
That's okay.
Football was so important to us, and one of the last things that we did together, like literally 2 days before he died was we watched a Seahawks game together, and it was just like of all that time that we hadn't spent together and hadn't been talking to each other, having that moment, and with him being as sick as he was, still yelling his little things at the screen, and it was really like a nice happy memory. And I think for the longest time, like the first handful of football games, a Seahawks game I ever went, they were with him. It's all just like, that's one of those things that's going to break me every single time.
Yeah.
Every single time.
I think there's a lot of things that will like trigger those memories, right? Like I feel like the first time we go camping, the first time we go fishing, because we've been talking about going fishing. I just feel like there's a lot of things that at some point are going to remind you of your dad throughout our lifetime together, right? And, you know, hopefully it's years and years and years and years and years from here. But as we continue to lose our loved one, grief doesn't get easier. It gets compounded, right? Yeah. And, you know, I just want to be able to like always support you through that. Like, I know that grief doesn't end. And that, you know, people will be grieving for a long time. You know, you hear all the time stories about people who lost family members and decades later, they're still hurt by it, or everything reminds them of that situation. And, you know, I just want to be open to supporting you through those moments. But there was a point in time when we kind of had to have a conversation about some boundaries around talking about your grief.
Oh, no. Why? Is it my morbidity?
Not necessarily. I think we would just be doing anything and you just bring it up. Like there was no like boundaries. There was no kind of mental escape for me.
That's fair.
From supporting your grief. And not to put your business out there, but I think this is when you tried like getting back into therapy and finding another therapist and stuff, because it was kind of one of those things where I think because of some of the conversations we had, you had recognized and said to me, like, you know, I can't keep like putting all of this on you, you know, and you acknowledge that like I have friends and family who are trying to support me, and it's harder for me to talk to them about it. So like just started leaning on them more and talking to the girls more and all your friends and stuff about it, you know. So I definitely think that it's hard to say, right? Because you want to be a person who's like, oh, I'm going to show up for you all the time and I'm always going to be there for you. But like, how do I show up for myself too in those moments?
And that is so real too, because even in that same vein, like I do have my friends and my close family, like they're great. They're amazing. I have a great community around me, but I wasn't leaning on them. Yeah. And that's another, I feel like, way to look at it. And like, they wanted to be there for me, but I wasn't allowing myself to like open up and let them know kind of like where I was at in my grief. And it was so easy with you because you're the first person I see when I wake up. You're the last person, like, you know, and just as things happen throughout the day, you're there. Yeah. And yeah, I think maybe even just like to that same vein of like, how can you support your partner more or whatever, is like reminding them that you do have people in your corner and like it's okay. And even if it's like you have people in your corner, that you don't need to just hit them up because you're grieving. Like, yes, you're in a bad place because of all this grief and stuff, but like, I need a movie night with my girls. And we're not going to talk about my dead dad or anything or whatever. We're just going to drink wine and watch movies. And like, that is support. That is support alone. And yeah, so I think also like a good reminder of just like, hey, we've got community, we've got family, like I love you, but I'm drowning over here.
Yes, 100%. Well, I don't want to keep making you cry.
Yeah, it's gonna happen. Even if we transition, I know I'm probably gonna cry some more, but yeah, sorry guys. It's embarrassing, but I am working on like being able to talk more vulnerably about my feelings and open up more. That's something that I do struggle with in my personal life and with my close friends and stuff. So I'm getting real vulnerable with you guys, and I'm really trying to like be more open and honest about my thoughts and feelings and just accountability, everything. So yay. Loved it so much.
You're doing great, sweetie. You're doing great. Yeah.
Moving along now.
But moving along, there's definitely a lot of grief that's tied to, the permanence of losing somebody to death.
Yeah.
But I am personally going through a different type of grief.
Yeah.
It's kind of been long and drawn out, but I've been grieving losing a friend.
Yeah.
And that has been rough.
Yeah.
Like, it's been really, 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 really hard. It's hard to watch somebody that you really care about put themselves in situations where they're harming themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Not like a self-harm type of way, but in a mental, like emotional, like you're not making the right decisions for yourself and you know it.
We're digressing.
Yes.
We're digressing.
100%.
Yeah.
So the situation with me, I had a best friend, and we had been friends for years, really, really close. And this friend got into a relationship with somebody else that I know. And I think like the connections and all of that is what makes this even harder.
Yeah.
Because sometimes people get into relationships and it's really easy to just become all about that relationship. We see it all the time, right? Like, don't ditch your friends for your partner, whatever. But that happens. So be it. But yeah, I just have found out that there's like a lot of like negativity and toxicity and jealousy in that relationship tied to my friendship. And it's been really, really hurtful to see the way that somebody who I considered like one of the closest people in my life has just chosen to let our relationship fall to the wayside, not stand up for our friendship, not care about our friendship, not support me. There are definitely times where things would be going bad and you could tell they were because I get reached out to at that point. And the conversation is literally all about those issues and what's going on with them. And there's never, ever a second thought of, oh, how are you doing? How can I support you? What have you been going through? What's going on with you? And I'm the type of person who always wants to give someone the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
But at some point, Jasmine talked some sense into me, and I had to step back and kind of realize, damn, this person really isn't my friend. I'm holding on to the times that they were there and they supported me and they showed up for me, but that doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
Our relationship became very one-sided to the point where I just had to stop trying. And because of that, it's just been whatever, and I don't think I told you this yet, but I was just looking, I know the tea is hot, y'all. The tea is hot. But I think about it often because, she's somebody that I would have been talking to at least every other day.
Mm-hmm.
So I think about it often, how there are a lot of things that I would like to share with this person and talk to them about, good things, bad things, whatever, even my engagement, I didn't even get a congratulations on that. So, it's really just caused me to like step back.
Yeah.
And, essentially the last time that I tried to talk to them, I triple text them over a number of days and hadn't heard back. So just this last week, I realized that I'm like grieving this and I need some finality just for me, selfishly. So I just basically sent her a message and I told her how hurtful it was that the situation has come to this and that, she has chosen to continue to just disregard our friendship and everything that it's meant. And that I knew I probably wasn't going to get a response back, and that's fine. The message wasn't for me, but wasn't for her, it was for me.
Yeah.
And I just told her, praying for you and your mental and your spiritual, and I'm praying for your family.
Yeah.
And I'm praying that like the toxicity doesn't get the best of you.
Yeah.
But at this point, it already has. Yeah. But for me, it was a necessary step in me being able to like, fully grieve that relationship and know it's over. I had to say in that message, like, I want you to know I don't want to be friends with you anymore. I don't want to be the person who's constantly holding on to, oh, well, maybe if something goes wrong, we'll get to be friends again. I deserve better than that.
Absolutely.
I wouldn't allow that from any other relationship in my life.
Period.
So I have to have my own boundaries in every situation, right?
Yeah.
And as a friend and as a person who's constantly showing up for others, I just deserve better. And it's hard to end a relationship with somebody so matter of fact when it's not for something like death, right? Like, I know that I'll probably never see or talk to this person again, and I have to learn to be okay with that.
And that's the hard part too, that it's like, It's so tough because it's like the same with just like my dad. Like I was okay with us not talking when it was my own decision, and like knowing that the door maybe could potentially be opened again, and then like, having him pass, it's like, well, that's just closed. You're never going to get like back there. But it's like, it's coming with, it's that piece of like, the peace of mind of like, I have to be okay with this and know that like, this is a stranger to me at this point. We walk each other on the street and I don't even smile or look your way because we just don't know each other.
Yep.
And as your partner and like going through this, it was hard for me to like navigate because you guys had your history and that friendship and relationship before you and I got together.
Yeah.
And, obviously I'm hearing lore and stuff about like, other girlfriends and interactions with her and just issues and things that they've had and like, jealousy, whatever. And so us going into this friendship and like you introducing me to her, it was like, oh, this is like, I didn't understand what the issue was. I feel like I liked this person. We vibed, we got along. Like, I didn't think there was like a problem or whatever. But just like timeline wise and how things have happened, that was like also around the same time that they started dating this other person. So for the duration of Viv and I's relationship, I didn't really get to see how that relationship ever existed or how it used to be. I didn't really get to see that.
Yeah.
As things started like happening, or I guess, the communication started like lessening, or just like we're not hanging out as much or whatever. Like I don't necessarily know what's my place. I'm very, like, people know I don't play about Vivian. I'm very protective and loyal of my people. And if a very close friend of mine or my partner tells me like, I don't really fuck with them or this happened and I don't talk to them, no questions asked. I also hate this person. I'm not going to think twice about it, whatever. I will full support you in this. And so it's also like hard for me in that same vein to like, I want you to also have this friendship that matters so much to you. Like, I also want to support that, but I'm also seeing how I wouldn't accept this from one of my friends.
Yep.
And also seeing how it was affecting you. Like, I know that you so badly wanted things to like get better. And it's like, okay, where is it my place to say like, yes, extend the olive branch. Yes, keep reaching out to her. Yes, and invite her to A, B, C, and D. But then also for that to be met with like nothing or just like no response, it's like, fuck, like I'm also now pushing you into this. And now we're both kind of getting like let down or like hurt a little bit. And I don't like that. Especially because like you're not wrong. You do prioritize and put other people before you at times and things like that. And even just, again, like you were talking as things like progress, I did also start to notice that pattern of, oh, you're hearing from so-and-so more. What's going on?
Mm-hmm.
What happened? And it would be, and like I think one of the last times that you guys were kind of like in communication more, I feel like that was the first time that I started feeling, I don't even want to say like jealousy, but I was upset or like suspicious at the re-entrance into your life at this time or whatever, you know what I mean? Yeah. Because we at this point now have been dating, like we know each other's like routines, who we kind of talk to all the time and things like that. So like I at this point was already feeling somewhat done and feeling some type of way about pursuing this friendship. But I also can't tell you, I don't think you need to talk to this friend anymore because like, I'm and Viv is also not that person with me. She's never going to tell me, I don't like that your friend said this. And so I don't think you should talk to them anymore and whatever. But we do also.
But I'm going to tell you, I don't like that your friend said that.
No, exactly. And we also do. But we also do have conversations about like, well, remember when, this situation happened with that person. So like, we're also very real and honest with each other about like the situations that go on in friendships and things and knowing and understanding like where we need to be at with certain people and friends and whatever. So yeah, I think that was when we did have that conversation of like, stand up, babe.
Yeah.
It's like get a backbone, because like I would hate to just like, just as you're talking about trying to contact her and like reach her, like, when you going through your iMessages and stuff and it's just a sea of blue because they're not getting back to you or they're not. It's just, damn,
Yep.
you're really like, you know, people, everybody in this day and age, we're on our phones all the time.
the time.
Like you know, like
Constantly.
you really have to go out of your way to intentionally not get back to someone multiple times. And like, I get it. If you text me and I see it, I might not get back to you that day. That happens all the time, like whatever. But weeks go by, days go by, not even like a, hey, I'm so sorry, whatever. Just, it's one of those things where it's like, period. You have showed me and told me everything that you needed to.
Yeah.
And I now know how I need to move forward. But yeah, it was hard for me to have that, just like, don't fuck with her no more. Because it's not, I don't have that history either, you know? I know how hard it is to walk away from people you care about, and no matter what the relationship is.
I think it was hard too because one, there's always a stigma when a masc person and a feminine person are friends, right? Whether that's a woman and a man, whatever it might be, right?
Mm-hmm.
So her being femme, me being masc, obviously there was a stigma that we obviously must have messed around, et cetera, et cetera. Never have. And I have learned that like sometimes our thought and conditioning that, you know, oh, I like this person, it must be a relationship, has ruined a lot of really good friendships. So it was a conversation that me and this person had really early that like, yo, aren't we, is this something we should, and the conversation was dead right there. Like, no, we're friends. We have a really good relationship. And we would never want to ruin that. Nothing else is worth what we have there as friends, right? So being very intentional about the type of relationship we have was very important to us. So for her to let the jealousy of others creep in and ruin that, I think was really hurtful. Yeah. But then to know that she's dating somebody that I've known for over half of my life. Granted, I have a history, but nowhere in my history have I ever messed with any of my friends' partners. Yeah. Anyone that they've dated, it's just, anybody can date anybody I dated. I don't give a fuck. Once I've dated them, it's whatever. It's just not my thing, right? I just have no interest in dating somebody that my friends have already dated. It's just not a thing for me. So it's like one of those things where this person knows me and they know that about me, but for them to still think and still put their own insecurities over like reality, like it's just really hurtful that like somebody that you love and care about can, one, allow your relationship be pushed to the side, and another person that you love and care about can think that way about you, right? Yeah. So this whole friendship turned into me grieving two instead of one, you know, because I'm out two people that I really loved and cared about for a long time, and it's just gone, you know.
And I think it's just like with everyone, like, you know, we talk about how, like, my best friend, Chelsea, and I, we've known each other since we were 7. And obviously, you grow and change and have different experiences. And it's very rare that people are, like, still friends with people that they're friends with from high school, middle school, or whatever, you know? And I think it's a testament, or just, like, it's sad, but it's, like, it is a part of life. People grow and change at, like, different rates. And they might be in a different place and journey when it comes to their healing and even just like communicative journey. Yeah. Because you are somebody who, talk to me, just have a conversation with me, give me that. And like, even if the conversation doesn't go the way that you want it to, we have at least given it each other. Like we've at least tried that with each other. You know what I mean? Like at least give me the opportunity, but it's the confusion and the radio silence of the we're good when really we're not, and then refusing to actually talk about it. It's that's not on you, and you have to know that. And like, it's the grief that comes with like, damn, I know these things, and like I know how to approach these things and maybe like navigate this, but I can't force that on them. I can't force them to meet me there when they're not. And that's also where it can hurt, is because like, damn, like how can I just give my brain and thoughts and experiences to you so that we can be here together, and you've already gone through it and dealt with it, and we're on the other side, and like
100%.
No, for sure.
But you have done an amazing job of like supporting me in it. Like I know you. I know that you want to be like, fuck that bitch.
No, literally.
Plus both them bitches.
Seriously.
Matter of fact, last time I told her that she didn't respond to me, she was like, hold on, let me go block her real fast.
No, seriously.
Let me go block her off my Instagram real fast, because I don't need her being friends with you again when something bad happens and her going on our pages acting like we're cool. We're not cool. And I do appreciate that. But like also when you're not being dramatic, as you are at times, you're very willing and open to hear me talk about it and understand why it's frustrating and hard for me. And I do appreciate that you've never been like, well, why does it matter? Like if she's just your friend, why does it matter? Like I'm a person who cherishes my friendships, my relationships, my relationship with my family. Like all those things matter to me.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I'm so drawn to dating you, because I see how much you cherish your friendships too. And I see that it's important to you and how you honor that. So yeah.
Yeah, it's all about your village and who's around you. And my biggest thing is I scream and preach chosen family, because you do get to choose who is around you and in your circle. And, blood is blood, but that doesn't like make you family.
Yeah.
It doesn't. And I also think too, like what can help with grieving, certain relationships and friendships too, is like you've been able to find common ground with other people that might be experiencing the same thing with these people, or like just or have had similar like experiences. And like again, it's just one of those things where you have to sit within yourself and like it's not me, it's not on me. I can't take on, or you can't take on, I would say maybe like their share of grief as well, if that makes sense, like you grieve it in a way that makes sense to you, while also having to like that understanding and the letting go of also.
Yep. 100%. On another note, I'm also currently grieving right now, some eagles.
Bella!
Bella's babies. I don't know if you guys watch like the eagle cams. There's some here in the Pacific Northwest. I don't know where Bella lives, but there was a really bad storm, and
I need to look them up.
Bella's had babies, right? So we were watching these eggs become chicks, or whatever the hell baby eagles are called, and then they get their wings.
Juvenile eagles, I think is
juveniles. You're working with some bird shit. Yeah.
I knew it.
A couple of juveniles. And the wind was going really, really hard, and the juveniles hadn't had their like flight wings yet. And you just see Bella like hunkering down, and the whole nest just topples off of the tree. And it's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
You guys, it's heartbreaking. That nest has been there for like 22 years, okay?
The babies didn't make it.
Babies did not make it. And then I'm scrolling TikTok the next day, and somebody posts a video of Bella with a fish where the nest used to be.
Because she's trying to feed her baby.
I lost it, you guys. I started crying.
Baby was crying.
I started crying over some fucking eagles.
I know. I felt bad. But then I tried to bring her some cheer, because we had eagles out here in the Pacific Northwest, Shadow, and I wish I could remember what Shadow's partner name was.
All I know is I'm not getting attached to any more birds.
I'm not. On TikTok, she put not interested.
She sent it to me.
So
and I'm like, not interested. Don't put birds on my page no more.
And you want to know what's crazy is I'm working yesterday on my computer, and I opened up an email. And I was like, damn, they're really out here targeting folks, because it doesn't make any sense. This email was from a like plastics manufacturer and distributor. Why was it a picture of birds in a nest feeding their baby chicks? I was like, babe, do you see this? Like, not them listening to us.
Crazy. So yeah, grief is all over. It comes in different forms at different times. And
I don't know. I just guess like, obviously every relationship is different. Every partnership is different.
And every person is different.
So I really do think it comes down to knowing your person well enough to know and understand how and like how they need to show up for you.
Yeah.
You know, like you also know that like I'm gonna use like dark humor and morbidity as like a defense mechanism, but like I'm also probably needing to cry or talk about something, you know.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I think what it comes down to is just knowing your like person and partner and how they need to receive your support when it comes to loss and grief.
Yeah, I think so too. I think communicating is huge. You know, when you're grieving, I think it's important to talk about how you're feeling.
Yeah.
That's a big one. Like that's the easiest thing you can do for your friends and family to be able to support you in any kind of way. And then on the other hand, like it's important to communicate your needs too. Like sometimes it can be heavy carrying everyone else's burdens
Yeah.
and not having space to work through your own. I think if people can do that, no matter what support looks like going through grief, you'll make it work and you'll get through it stronger than you were before.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
Yeah. Perfect. That's all I got.
So is there anything else you'd like to talk about when it comes to grief?
Not necessarily,
Okay.
but I do feel like having this conversation with you has made me think about other relationships in my life that I probably do need to have a conversation with a couple people.
No.
You know, yeah.
Yeah, I think
not-
it's important. Communicate.
Yeah, and not even necessarily in a like relationship ending kind of way, but just like let's clear some shit up.
Like, let's get shit right. You
No,
feel
for
me?
sure.
Like,
Absolutely. Yeah.
it's important. Communicate. I will stand on that till the day I die. Communicate. Even if you have to over communicate.
I'm just gonna say
Communicate.
coming from little Miss over communicator.
It's you know, it's a good thing and a bad thing all at once.
Yeah. And she knows like we don't operate that way. Like I'm someone who I need time sometimes to like sit in things or sit with my thoughts and my feelings. And Viv is like, no, I'm in it right now. I'm getting anxious about it. We need to talk about it. We need to figure this out. And I'm like, I just can't. You put me on this spot and I'm probably going to respond negatively or not so kindly because I'm in a fight or flight mode.
Yep. Yep. And all of this, like us understanding this about each other, all comes with one, trying to communicate, trying to figure out how we can communicate better, and not taking things so personally. I mean, in the moment when, you know, things are heightened, it is really easy to take things personally. But, you know, even with like the grief stuff, you know, talking about getting rid of her stuff, like in the moment, she took that personally. Like, oh, she doesn't want me to keep my dad's shit. Like, fuck her. Fucking bitch. No, I'm just kidding. You know, but she was probably in her mind thinking like, wow, she really don't fuck with me like I thought she fucked with me, you know?
Oh, God.
But like when you get over that moment and you don't look at it personally, you look at it a little bit more objectively, it allows us to like kind of understand each other better. So sometimes stepping out of those moments like you talked about. And I know I went downstairs yesterday and I was like, oh, we don't have a bigger space, but we could possibly have another unit over here with Blue. And she was like, can we talk about this later? And I'm like, you know what? Yep. And I went out as fast as I came in the room, I went out the room.
Like literally, I was like a few minutes before a meeting. I'm trying to like,
I was excited.
Do other things. She's like, look, they just got back to me this much. Look at this. Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, do you want me to say, yeah, go for it right now? And let me hop on this meeting and we're not having any other conversation about it? No.
So she was like, yeah, can we talk about it later? And I'm like, yep. And I didn't bring it up again, but she brought it up later. And then
I brought it up
about it for
morning.
No, you brought it up later. You brought it up last night.
Oh, I did?
Yes. And then it was very brief still because I could tell she didn't really want to talk about it without thinking about it. And then I had let her bring it up again today because it's like, for me, I need to say things sometimes.
Yeah.
And she might not be ready to receive, you know? So yeah. Moral of the story is communicate with your partner.
Communicate.
Through the good times, through the hard times. Yeah. Just communicate. Don't take things personal.
Let go of your ego and your pride. Like the things that I feel like I've like done in front of you or like talked to you about would mortify me and embarrass me if it was anybody else. But like I could like laugh so hard and cough up a loogie right now and not even think twice about it. Just be like, oh, damn, babe, I'm so sorry that happened. And we would
I would think twice about it. The fuck?
No, but I just
That sounds disgusting.
I don't know why I went there.
I don't even sounds so gross. God damn.
No, but I just mean in the sense of like, okay, so let me back it up a little bit. I'm really sick. I don't want to think about your loogies. I've been battling a cold, and we're talking. I laugh a little bit too hard. It just happens on accident.
I don't want to talk about your fake loogies anymore.
Let me finish the story.
It's not even real. It's not even a real story.
But anyways, anybody else, I would cry out of I would be mortified. I would cry of embarrassment. I would never want to talk to you ever again. Whereas you would be like, babe, it's okay. You're probably inside wanting to vomit and die because I just coughed a loogie up on you. You're like, it's okay. You're sick. It happens. It's all right. It's okay. I'm sorry. But we would get through it because you're my person.
That's right.
You feel me?
You're my person. Yeah. You got a ring to prove it.
Do you see her?
Anyways,
that's it, because we're obviously going off on tangents now. We have to.
She's getting loopy.
Grief
does that to her.
I've had 3 cups of coffee today, you guys. I'm buzzing.
Anyways, so that'll be our episode for today. I just want to say thank you guys for joining us. Thanks for letting my fiance cry in front of you guys and be so vulnerable. Be nice to her. Don't make fun of her.
Or do. It's okay. Yeah, no, it's okay.
I make fun of her all the time for crying, but I don't want you to. But yeah, we'll be back again in 2 weeks, and we'll see you guys there.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you for joining us on another episode of You, Me, and Them.
We appreciate you being here. Make sure to follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube.
And don't forget to subscribe wherever you watch and listen.
See you next time.